By the end of the Second World War, the United States did not just participate in aviation. It dominated it. American factories had produced nearly 300,000 military aircraft during the war. The industrial base that made that possible did not disappear in 1945. It pivoted. What had been bombers and fighters became commercial airliners. What had been wartime urgency became peacetime ambition. By the 1950s and 1960s, the United States controlled the global skies. American manufacturers supplied the overwhelming majority of the world's long-range commercial aircraft. Airlines from Europe to Asia lined up to buy American jets. When countries wanted to modernize their fleets, they did not look to Paris or London. They looked to Seattle. In 1958, Boeing introduced the 707, helping launch the jet age for commercial travel. In 1969, it unveiled the 747, the largest passenger aircraft ever built at the time. The 747 could carry more than 350 passengers across oceans, shrinking the world in a way no airplane had before. It was not just a machine, it was a statement. Through the 1960s and 1970s, American aerospace firms accounted for the majority of global commercial jet deliveries. Aviation became one of the country's most valuable export industries. Engineering was not an afterthought. It was the culture. Decisions were driven by aerodynamicists, test pilots, and systems engineers. America did not simply build airplanes. It defined what safe, reliable, long-distance air travel looked like. For decades, if you boarded an international flight, chances were high you were stepping onto an American aircraft. For nearly 2 decades, American dominance in commercial aviation felt untouchable. But in 1970, something changed. That year, a new consortium was formed in Europe. It was called Airbus. Backed by the governments of France, Germany, and later Spain and the United Kingdom, Airbus was not just another manufacturer. It was a strategic project. Europe had decided it would no longer rely entirely on American aircraft to move its people and power its airlines. In the early years, Airbus was dismissed in the United States as an experiment. Boeing still commanded the long-haul market. American aerospace firms continued to account for the majority of global commercial jet deliveries through the 1970s. Airlines trusted American engineering. Regulators trusted American safety standards. But Airbus was patient. In 1974, it introduced the A300, one of the first twin-engine wide-body jets. By the 1980s, Airbus was steadily gaining ground, especially in the narrow-body segment. Its A320 program, launched in 1984 and entering service in 1988, brought full fly-by-wire controls into commercial aviation. That was not just a technical shift, it was a signal. Through the late 1980s and early 1990s, Airbus expanded its market share year after year. By the mid-1990s, it was delivering hundreds of aircraft annually and had secured major contracts with global carriers. The skies were no longer a one-nation domain. For the first time since the dawn of the jet age, American aviation faced a competitor that was organized, subsidized, and determined to win. And the response to that pressure would define everything that followed. Competition alone does not destroy an industry. Pressure reveals character. And in 1997, under mounting pressure from Airbus and Wall Street, a decision was made that would quietly reshape American aviation. That year, Boeing merged with McDonnell Douglas in a deal valued at approximately $13 billion. On paper, it looked like consolidation. 2 aerospace giants combining strengths. In reality, McDonnell Douglas had been struggling. Its commercial aircraft business had fallen behind, and much of its strength came from defense contracts. When the merger closed, many assumed Boeing had absorbed its weaker rival. But culturally, something different happened. Senior leadership from McDonnell Douglas took key positions inside the new company. The philosophy that had once defined Boeing began to shift. For decades, Boeing had been led by engineers. Its identity was rooted in technical excellence, long development cycles, and an almost obsessive commitment to safety margins. Airplanes were built with the assumption that reputation would outlast quarterly earnings. After the merger, financial performance began to take center stage. In the 2000s, Boeing significantly increased share buybacks, returning tens of billions of dollars to shareholders over the next decade. Between 2013 and 2019 alone, the company spent more than $40 billion repurchasing its own stock. The message inside the company was subtle but clear. Efficiency mattered more. Speed mattered more. Market share mattered more. Engineering was still present, but it was no longer unquestioned authority. The decision was not framed as abandoning quality. It was framed as becoming competitive. But from that point forward, the center of gravity moved. And once it moved, it would not easily move back. The shift did not happen overnight. It unfolded quietly, through decisions that seemed practical at the time. In 2001, Boeing moved its corporate headquarters from Seattle, the heart of its engineering culture, to Chicago. The official explanation was neutrality. Leadership wanted distance from both commercial and defense divisions, but symbolically, the move mattered. The company that had been rooted in hangars and test facilities was now anchored in a financial district. At the same time, production strategies began to change. When Boeing launched the 787 Dreamliner in the early 2000s, it embraced an aggressive outsourcing model. Large sections of the aircraft were built by suppliers around the world, then shipped to final assembly. The idea was efficiency, share risk, cut costs, speed up development. Instead, the program ran into repeated delays. The 787, originally scheduled for delivery in 2008, did not enter service until 2011. The project accumulated billions of dollars in cost overruns. Coordination between suppliers proved far more complex than expected. Engineers raised concerns about quality control and oversight. Inside the company, pressure intensified. Delivery targets became central. Competing with Airbus was no longer just about building the best airplane. It was about protecting market share quarter by quarter. Wall Street rewarded performance. Analysts focused on margins. Executive compensation increasingly tied to stock price. Between 2013 and 2018, Boeing's share price more than tripled. On the surface, it looked like success. Revenue climbed. Profits rose. Orders flowed in. But beneath that growth, the culture had shifted. Engineering caution, once the defining trait of American aviation, now shared space with financial urgency. And when urgency meets complexity in an industry built on precision, small compromises do not stay small for long. By the early 2010s, the competitive pressure from Airbus had reached a new level. In December 2010, Airbus announced the A320neo, a re-engined version of its best-selling narrow-body jet, promising up to 15% better fuel efficiency. Airlines reacted immediately. Within a year, Airbus had logged more than 1,000 orders. The message to Boeing was unmistakable. The market was moving, and it was moving fast. Boeing faced a strategic crossroads. It could invest in a clean sheet aircraft program, a project that analysts estimated could cost $10 to $15 billion and take close to a decade to certify. Or it could modify the existing 737 platform to compete quickly and preserve market share. The choice was speed. In 2011, Boeing launched the 737 MAX. The aircraft retained the basic airframe architecture introduced in the 1960s, but incorporated larger, more fuel-efficient engines. Because the 737 sits relatively low to the ground, those engines had to be mounted higher and farther forward on the wing. That seemingly technical adjustment altered the aircraft's pitch characteristics in certain flight conditions. To compensate, Boeing implemented MCAS, the Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System. MCAS could automatically command nose-down trim when the system detected a high angle of attack. Crucially, in its original configuration, MCAS relied on input from a single sensor. On October 29, 2018, Lion Air Flight 610 crashed into the Java Sea, killing 189 people. On March 10, 2019, Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 crashed shortly after takeoff, killing 157 people. Investigations later linked both accidents to erroneous sensor data and repeated MCAS activation. Within days of the second crash, regulators around the world grounded the 737 MAX. It would remain grounded for approximately 20 months. What began as a competitive response became the most consequential crisis in modern American aviation. The grounding of the 737 MAX was not a symbolic pause. It was a global shutdown. In March 2019, aviation authorities across Europe, Asia, and eventually the United States suspended operations of the aircraft. More than 380 delivered jets were grounded worldwide. Airlines were forced to cancel thousands of flights. Production continued for months, but by January 2020, Boeing halted 737 MAX manufacturing entirely. The aircraft remained grounded for approximately 20 months in the United States until November 2020. During that period, Boeing faced not only technical scrutiny, but a collapse of public trust. Financially, the damage was severe. Between 2019 and 2021, Boeing recorded more than $20 billion in direct costs related to the 737 MAX crisis. That figure included compensation to airlines, production slowdowns, redesign efforts, and legal expenses. In 2020 alone, the company reported a net loss of nearly $12 billion, one of the largest in its history. Meanwhile, Airbus pulled ahead. In 2019 and 2020, Airbus delivered more commercial aircraft than Boeing. For the first time in decades, the American manufacturer was no longer the clear leader in global deliveries. Airlines that once defaulted to Boeing began diversifying their fleets. But the deeper loss was intangible. For generations, American aviation had been synonymous with reliability. The assumption was simple. If it was built in the United States, it met the highest safety standards in the world. Congressional hearings in 2019 and 2020 revealed internal communications questioning design decisions and regulatory oversight. The narrative shifted from isolated malfunction to systemic failure. Trust, once compromised, does not return on schedule. It must be rebuilt slowly, under scrutiny. And in aviation, trust is not a marketing asset. It is the foundation of the entire system. The crisis did not stop at one company. By the late 2000s, the United States had only one major commercial aircraft manufacturer left. Boeing was not just another corporation. It was the backbone of an ecosystem that stretched across dozens of states and supported hundreds of thousands of jobs. The American aerospace industry, directly and indirectly, supports more than 2 million jobs and generates hundreds of billions of dollars in annual economic output. Aerospace products have consistently ranked among the country's largest export categories, often producing a positive trade balance measured in tens of billions of dollars each year. When Boeing slowed production, that shock moved outward. Suppliers that built fuselage sections, avionics systems, landing gear, and engines felt the impact almost immediately. Smaller manufacturers dependent on steady production rates faced uncertainty. Skilled labor, once drawn to aviation as a stable career path, encountered layoffs and hiring freezes. The reputational impact also extended beyond Boeing. For decades, the Federal Aviation Administration had been viewed as the gold standard of aircraft certification. During the 737 MAX investigations, international regulators conducted their own independent reviews rather than automatically following FAA guidance. That shift was subtle, but historic. On the global stage, Airbus emerged as the only large-scale competitor in commercial jets. The United States, once the unquestioned leader in commercial aviation manufacturing, now stood in a duopoly where it no longer set the terms alone. This was no longer just about a software system or a merger decades earlier. It was about whether America could still claim to define the technological standards of the skies. When a nation loses dominance in a foundational industry, the consequences are rarely confined to balance sheets. They reshape confidence, influence, and long-term strategic leverage. Crises of this scale do not end quietly. They end with accountability. In December 2019, Boeing's chief executive officer stepped down amid mounting pressure from regulators, lawmakers, airlines, and the public. Congressional hearings throughout 2019 and 2020 placed senior executives under oath. Lawmakers questioned internal emails, certification processes, and the degree to which cost and schedule pressures influenced engineering decisions. Testimony revealed uncomfortable details. Internal communications showed employees expressing concern about the aircraft's development and interactions with regulators. The narrative was no longer about a technical malfunction. It was about governance. In January 2021, the United States Department of Justice announced a deferred prosecution agreement with Boeing. The company agreed to pay more than $2.5 billion in penalties and compensation, including fines and payments to airlines and a fund for victims' families. The agreement resolved a criminal charge related to conspiracy to defraud the Federal Aviation Administration during the certification of the 737 MAX. The financial penalties were significant. The reputational cost was greater. For decades, Boeing had symbolized American industrial strength. Now it became a case study in what happens when oversight erodes and internal checks fail. Regulators tightened certification standards. Congress reformed aspects of the aircraft approval process. The relationship between manufacturer and regulator entered a more skeptical phase. Reckoning is not simply punishment. It is recognition. Recognition that something fundamental went wrong. Recognition that systems designed to protect the public did not function as intended. The question that remained was deeper than legal liability. It was cultural. Had the industry merely made a mistake? Or had it drifted too far from the principles that once made it exceptional? For much of the 20th century, American aviation was more than an industry. It was a symbol. It represented a belief that complex problems could be solved through disciplined engineering, long-term thinking, and an uncompromising commitment to safety. When the Boeing 747 entered service in 1969, it was not simply the largest passenger aircraft ever built. It embodied confidence. It told the world that American engineers could design systems of staggering complexity and make them reliable enough for everyday life. That identity carried weight. Airlines trusted it. Governments trusted it. Passengers rarely questioned it. The 737 MAX crisis did not erase American aerospace capability. The United States still designs advanced aircraft. It still leads in defense aviation, space systems, and high-end manufacturing. But something intangible shifted. For the first time in generations, the assumption of unquestioned technical leadership fractured. Regulators abroad scrutinized American certification decisions independently. Airlines diversified their fleets more aggressively. Public confidence became conditional. What was lost was not simply market share. It was moral authority in the skies. The deeper lesson is not about one merger or one software system. It is about cultural drift. When engineering excellence becomes secondary to financial performance, the effects may remain invisible for years. Until they are not. The United States once defined the standards of global aviation. The question now is whether it can redefine itself again. Industries rise. Industries fall. But the real story is always about choices. And one decision, made under pressure, can echo for decades.